insight into what I think is an emerging trend, or at least the general direction of where I think software engineering practices, or a practice, is going. As technology leaders, we're all struggling with the same challenges. We're all trying to figure out how to build high-performing teams in a market where we have a very limited talent pool that's shrinking because of the ever-increasing amount of competition. On top of this, the technology landscape is becoming more democratized, and the choices are becoming more numerous. So it's tough out there. Okay, so let's put DevOps as a practice. I think the focus of DevOps is become too narrow. A lot of the practices around DevOps were originally about speeding up the pipeline, get stuff into production faster, get feedback from your customers faster, deliver business value earlier. Started off between marriage between dev and ops, get stuff into production quick, keep things stable. Makes sense. And then we realized we can't just automate all our releases and keep shoving stuff out into production. We've got to test stuff. And then we decided, okay, we'll put some automated tests in our pipeline. And then the security guys came along and said, no, you're not doing anything without us, we're security. Okay? So we all decided to shift left in security and incorporate DevSecOps practices within our pipeline. And then somebody really silly decided biz DevOps. I don't know who's done this, right? But it needs to stop. Okay? Because the business decided, oh, well, we need to have our say as well. Except that was the problem we were trying to solve in the first place, right? Okay? Getting closer to the customer. All of this really, for me, just points to the fact that, while the original practices of DevOps were quite useful, they're being bent out of shape because they don't really incorporate the complexity of building software in one environment. And I'm not the only person to recognize this. Emily Freeman, author of DevOps for Dummies and head of the community engagement at AWS, her keynote speech at the Startup Showcase, I highly recommend you all watch it. Really, really good. She sheds she offers her opinion on this, and what she says is that we need to address the limitations of DevOps and look for something new that allows us to address the complicated nature of building software, or as I like to sort of think of it, product development, which we'll come back to later. I've got a point around that. And one of the other points she makes, which I think is quite interesting and thought-provoking, is that DevOps as a practice, it's more than a decade old. Started 2008, I'm thinking, maybe she's right, maybe it is out of date. Maybe the problem of DevOps has largely been solved. If we look at this year's DORA report, and look at the cluster analysis and the 4 key metrics, what you'll notice straight away is this year, as opposed to last year, there is no elite category. Elite and high have converged effectively because the high category has become sort of better performing. The ability to deploy multiple times a day was an elite achievement previously, now it's not. And there's also a shift upwards in terms of the low performing teams within the cluster. So the floor is being raised. Overall general performance is increasing. If we look at the general trend over the last few years, you can see that 69% of participants or respondents to the survey this year thought they had about an average level of DevOps maturity. Okay? That's quite significant when you think about it. For me, that's a great indication of where the industry itself thinks it is in terms of DevOps maturity. 2022, the results are a bit difficult to interpret because of converged to the top 2, but generally you can see that the elite category continues to rise and the low category continues to shrink, except for this year, where the floor has been raised in terms of performance. In other words, they've moved the goalpost. Things have gotten harder because expectations on engineers have sort of been raised. And if you want more data on to kind of really hit the nail on the head, 85% of organisations will be adopting a cloud computing strategy, according to Gartner. Right? More than 3/4 of all developers are now involved in DevOps activities. For me, this speaks for itself and talks to the problem. And just to do a little bit of a survey, sorry, how many people here are using, stick your hand up if you're using an automated release pipeline. Right? Stick your hand up if you write your own automated tests. Infrastructure as code? Yeah, Dave, I know you write your own automated tests. Yeah. How many people are using source control? I mean, it speaks for itself, right? DevOps as a practice has been largely solved, and I think a lot of it is down to the fact that modern engineering approaches have released significant copies of it. If we take the SaaS landscape, chances are you have a specific problem. Rather than building it for yourself, there's a tool out there that will do it for you. We're seeing an explosion in this landscape, and one of the reasons is because of the usage-based model. This is really important. Okay. Rather than locking yourself into a long-term contract, you only pay for what you use. Okay. Something doesn't work out, get it, shut it down, throw it away, try something else. Now, this makes it significantly easier for these engineers to own those decisions. Okay. You don't have to put up huge amounts of capital or draw up long-term contracts to tie you in to an agreement with any of these providers. Not all of those providers. And so engineers don't have to wait for some moronic CTO to make these decisions top-down. All they really need is Jaz's credit card. Which means when faced with a build versus buy decision as an engineer, it's far more easier to just go out and buy something that does the stuff that you need it to do. And there are a lot of cloud-based services that are not quite SaaS, but tools that allow you to solve common problems without having to worry about being experts in those domains. And these are sort of really powerful tools that can significantly raise the capability of your organization without having to have a lot of that expertise in-house. And to me, what this is showing is that modern engineering nowadays is less about building custom code, more about glue code, stitching together services to solve specific business problems. Serverless has also completely changed the game. Now, if we do want to build our own custom code, we don't have to worry about infrastructure. Hosted pipelines, hosted event brokers, hosted you name it. A lot of the DevOps techniques that we developed that revolved around managing physical infrastructure just aren't as relevant nowadays. And I'm not the only person to recognise. I don't know how that happened. Sorry, I'm not the only person to recognise this trend. Other people have seen this. Other people have predicted this, and it's going to continue. So brilliant, excellent. We won DevOps. We blew up the Death Star. We managed to bring balance to the Force. Everyone forgot Luke kissed his sister Leia in the first Star Wars movie. So what do we do with all this free time, all this cognitive load, all this headspace, now that evil has been banished from the universe? Yeah, cool. So we go back to what was really important, the customer. At the end of the day, that was what we were trying to do with these things for. That was ultimately the point of DevOps. How can we bring our engineers closer to the customer to deliver business value early? So this is the shift in mindset that we need to adopt. We need to be thinking of our engineers as more than just coders that build software, and we need to treat our engineers as active participants in the software or the product development process, not the software development process, the product development process. We need to cultivate the idea of the product engineer and use them as an integral part of what Marty Kagan likes to talk about as empowered product teams, not feature teams. So again, a bit of a survey. How many people here are using roadmap planning? Okay. Roadmap planning. How many people here, engineers here, are asked for estimates as part of the planning process? Not bad, not as many as I thought. How many people are assigned features or given a prioritized list of things to do? Wow, you guys are all like ahead of the curve, 1%. Okay. So for me, those are the sorts of things that really disempower teams and destroy an empowered product-focused team. Turn them into what Marty Kagan calls feature teams. And effectively turn your engineering function into a service function. Here's a load of requirements, here's what the customer wants, go away and deliver, do your dev stuff. That's not going to drive innovation, that's not going to drive productivity, that's not going to improve speed to market, and ultimately that's not going to allow you to hire and attract the right kind of talent. So to put it another way, consider some of the activities that go into the whole process of delivering value to your customers. Engineers would only typically get involved in the far right. The far right process, not the far right. But look, as we all know, delivering value isn't just about writing code. There's many ways to solve the customer problem. Building a custom piece of code should be the last thing in order to solve that problem. And all of the things that are left to writing code are the things that we as engineers, you as engineers, I just make stuff up, you as engineers need to get more involved in, and we as technology leaders need to cultivate. Now it's pretty difficult to, not many people, sorry, as an aside, not many people actually know this, but true story. The reason why they picked the Rylot for Cinch was because of his likeness to me. People don't believe it, that's absolutely true. He's obviously more tanned than I am. But it's difficult to get empirical evidence of this stuff, but anecdotally, we all know this is true. And I know from my experience at Cinch, and a lot of people in the room know from their experience in the early days of Cinch, how powerful empowered product teams can be. If we want something a bit more empirical, well, let's go back to the DORA report for this year. This year they've introduced a new type of cluster analysis that measures operational performance in terms of reliability. And what they've seen is that teams that focus on operational performance see better overall outcomes despite delivery performance. That means if you don't do any of the DevOps shit, you care about what the customer wants, then you're more likely to achieve your business goals. That's crazy, right? But it's not. We all know it to be true. So, look, DevOps is largely a solved problem. Stop banging on about it, don't you? DevOps is largely a solved problem. It doesn't address the complexity of the modern development environment. The technology advancements that we're seeing are freeing up cognitive load, and that's a great thing. That makes us all more effective. And we should be filling that with our concerns. We should be using that to get closer to the customer to deliver business value early. Except, sorry, the one thing I didn't mention, the thing I haven't really talked about is how you bring customers closer, or your engineers closer to your customer. What are those techniques? What would allow us to do that? What the hell is socio-technical architecture? And why is that important? But more importantly, how do you achieve those things at scale? Because it's relatively easy to do that in a small team, but at scale, it's a whole different game, right? But unfortunately, you're going to have to wait until the next talk. Cool. Thank you very much.